about today and think about all the moments that you've lived today. Think about the words that you've used today. Maybe they weren't like a curse word, but maybe they were a word layered in sarcasm or an attitude to your mom or dad, or a nasty word to your brother or sister, right? Think about a couple games ago. You got frustrated on the field. Nobody does that ever, right? We're all just perfect little angels flying out there. Maybe it was a cutting word or a short word or a nasty word that you uttered under your breath to a teammate or to a coach, okay? We all do it, okay? We all do it. What James is saying is, with the same tongue, we praise God and we curse man. And what James says is, that can't be. I didn't read it, but he goes on to say, think about a spring, okay? Can fresh and salt water come out of the same spring? No, right? And yet, we feel like we can love God and praise God and yet turn around and use a bad word or cut somebody with our words, right? So I want to share a quick story with you guys. How many of you have ever been bullied? How many of you ever experienced someone bullying someone else? You've seen it, you've watched it on the bus, right? The hallway at school. So I was in high school, and I was at a retreat. And the speaker at the retreat was actually talking about standing up for those around you. Standing in the gap for those that are getting bullied and pushed around. Look at those that are on the outside, that are not loved and accepted. And he said, stand in the gap. Somebody who loves God and follows God, we are called to protect. We are called to love. We're called to stand in the gap. And I walked away from that retreat going, God, what would you have me do? And there was this kid in my school by the name of Justin. Justin was about my height. But Justin was just a turd. And you guys know what I mean by that. Justin was he was a turd. He used his words to cut people down constantly. Justin made himself feel great by bringing everyone else down around him. Needless to say, he didn't have a lot of friends, or the people that he did hanging around with were kind of like Justin, okay? So this one particular day, it was like 2 or 3 days off of the retreat, and I was just kind of saying, Lord, how would you have me protect and help those around? And Justin loved to pick on a few of the same kids over and over and over again. And this one day I was talking to a friend in the hall, and around the corner I could hear Justin's voice and the language that was coming out of his mouth, and I knew exactly who he was picking on. And I felt like this overwhelming, like, okay, here's your chance, right? I don't know if you guys ever experienced this. So by the way, this story is not about me. I want you to hear that. I turned the corner and I walked straight over Justin. I'm not, parents, please, I'm not suggesting that any of your boys do this, but I simply put my hand on Justin's chest, and any way that Jesus would, I just gently shoved him into the locker, okay? Like it was like a, hey, buddy, you know? And I just gave him a gentle and Jesus love shove, and I looked him in the eye and I said, Justin, and guys, this is hilarious. I was like, this is my moment. I'm gonna be strong, and everyone's gonna be like, oh my gosh, that was awesome, whatever. And the only words that come out of my mouth are this simple little cute thing that my mom had said to me my entire life. I walked up to him, I shoved him, and I said, Justin, if you don't have anything nice to say, keep your mouth shut. But I did it so cool. It was so cool, guys. He looked at me, and guys, get this. This was the first time that anyone had ever stood up to Johnston. And I said, Johnston, enough is enough. And it wasn't me, but that was the last day that Justin picked on kids that were smaller than him. And he turned a corner. By our senior year, Justin and I were best friends. And God did a really cool thing there, but I allowed God to use me to say, you know what, I'm not going to allow somebody to abuse someone else with their words. So I'm going to close with this, okay? And then I'm going to have you turn to your teammates here in the back. Jesus was talking to his disciples, and one of his disciples in Luke chapter 6 asked this, guys. Hey, all eyes here. I know she's horrible, but one of his disciples says this. He says, hey, Jesus, how can you tell if somebody is a follower of God? Like when I look around, how do I know who's who and who's following who and who's a Christian and who's not? And Jesus said, you will know them by their fruit. Now, I could go on more context, but that's kind of a weird response. But what Jesus was basically saying is, put that fruit tree over there. We know it's alive. We know it's healthy. We know it's growing. We know it's producing good things because you can look at it and you can see the fruit. It's actually not a fruit tree. That's just my point. What Jesus is saying is I should be able to look at your life and know that you are producing the right kind of things. Things that point people to me. Things like love and joy and peace and patience, kindness and goodness, and gentleness and self-control, right? Those are the things that when somebody looks at you, they could go, whoa, they're different, right? And I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I'm going to tonight for just a second. I want to point out Josh. We all know Josh, right? On the blue. You need to spend 5 minutes with Josh and know that Josh loves Jesus. He loves him really well. Josh is incredibly kind and gentle and patient. He hangs out with Peyton. No, I'm just kidding. So, you just hang out with Josh and you're like, quality dude, there's something different about Josh. And you ask him, he'd probably tell you, you know? Jesus said you're going to know them by their fruit. And then verse 45, Jesus said this, and I love this. He said, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. That is a great verse. If you're going to memorize a verse in this next week, Luke 6:45, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. What does that mean? It's kind of like lofty. What that basically means is whatever's inside here, Ben, Isaiah, Caden, okay? Whatever's inside, it's going to eventually come out. Right? So if our heart is aligned with God, we're following Him and we want to glorify Him, it's going to come out in our speech. It's really hard to be super nice and say all the right things when you got a lot of crazy anger and frustration and you're just not following God, right? Out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth is going to speak. So here's what I want us to do. Before you turn to your teammates, In fact, here's what I want you to do. Create a circle right now with your team. As small as it might be, as large as it might be. Knees to knees. Just keep it tight. Okay? We're almost done here.
Hey, bud. Hey, bud. Stop him now. Go and play him basketball.